Good evening, ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties. This is Alex, coming at you from the underworld, and welcome back to another episode of... This weekend, I'm continuing forward with my Halloween-themed lineup by reviewing the novella Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge. And before I get started, I would like to note that I buddy read this with my good online friends Hanny and John, and as always, we had a lot of great discussions about this book, so I really do appreciate the buddy read. Also, I would like to add that even though the previous two books I reviewed for spooky season did amp me up, this is the first book I recently read that put me in the spirit of the holiday, as everything about this glorifies Halloween, and it is a fun folk horror thrill ride.
Guess what?
What, Carrie?
I made a magic wand from the tree in our backyard, and I blessed it in the fields under the moonlight.
Good for you. Do you want a cookie?
No, I want to use it on you so that you'll have sweet dreams of pumpkins and the harvest. All you have to do is close your eyes.
Let me see that. Exactly what do you plan to do with this wand?
I'm just going to gently tap it on your head.
Well, that doesn't sound too bad. No tricks?
No tricks.
All right. And you said I had to close my eyes, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right. Now think of your fondest Halloween memories of candy corn, of black cats, pumpkin spice lattes, and trick-or-treating.
Wow. This is actually pleasant. Unfortunately, Carrie's not going to be around for a little while. I'm not going to say where he is, but I will say that thoughts and prayers will probably do him good. So, without further ado, let's go back in time and visit a small Midwestern town where a deadly tradition is soon to commence. Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge opens up in 1963 on Halloween night, where a mysterious stranger awakens a nightmarish figure known as the October Boy. And as this local legend creeps about the countryside with a butcher's knife, he is every bit of Halloween, as he has a jack-o'-lantern for a head and a body made out of pumpkin vines. From here, the story shifts to a teenage protagonist named Pete, who, like the rest of the boys in this town, have fasted for 5 days leading up to their annual race, which we eventually discover the objective of this race is to kill the October Boy to prevent him from reaching their local church before midnight. Then, once the October Boy dies, his death will allow this town to maintain its way of life for another year. And to entice participants, whoever succeeds is held in the highest honor, where their family is showered with gifts, and the winner is granted the opportunity to leave town so he can better himself. However, after Pete runs into a classmate named Kelly, he soon realizes that this town's yearly tradition is a game that no one ever truly wins. Released in 2006 by Cemetery Dance Publications, Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge won the Bram Stoker Award for Best Long Fiction. The following year, it was published in paperback and ebook by Tor Books. Although Publishers Weekly hailed Dark Harvest as being one of the top 100 books of the year, other critics weren't so favorable, as they said Partridge failed to tie up loose ends. In an interview for Cemetery Dance, Partridge explained that although the town presented in Dark Harvest was fictional, he wanted to reflect his memories of the 1960s. During his writing process, Partridge drew inspiration from seasons 1 and 2 of The Twilight Zone, where he was influenced by episodes that depicted seemingly perfect towns that harbored a dark secret. Other inspirations included stories by Shirley Jackson, such as The Lottery, The Demon Lover, The Tooth, and The Witch. And for noir feel, the movies of James Dean also played an active role in Partridge's creativity. In an interview conducted by Jeff Vandermeer, Partridge explained the reason he wrote Dark Harvest in second-person narrative is because he wanted readers to hear him talking from the other side of the page. This way, his style would be read like a campfire story. Fun facts! Here's a few things you might not know about Norman Partridge. Norman Partridge has won 3 Bram Stoker Awards, and he has been nominated 3 times for the World Fantasy Award. Aside from writing horror, Partridge has written mystery books as well as a novel in the Crow universe called Wicked Prayer. Upon a movie having been made of his Crow novel, he did not see the adaptation or has cared to own a copy. Outside of writing, Partridge has worked at St. Mary's College of California as an evening circulation supervisor for their library. Now that we have that covered, it's time to move on to the spoilers segment, which, if you haven't read this book before, I'm about to reveal some things that could ruin the experience for you. So if you would like to click away, all you have to do is scroll down to the comments section, and you'll see that I have a pinned comment at the top with the timestamp in it. Once you click on that timestamp, it will direct you away from the spoilers and bring you to the thoughts section. Now, you only have 17 seconds to do this, so ready, set, go! Since everyone's had the opportunity to click away, I would like to talk about a few of my favorite moments. For starters is the scene where the October Boy has his first altercation. Now, prior to this, all of the teenage boys of this town had been let loose like a pack of starving dogs to hunt down the October Boy. And among them is this teenage guy by the name of Mitch Crenshaw, who is speeding along in his Chrysler with his friends Bud and Charlie. And as they're trying to find the October Boy, it's revealed that Mitch is determined that he is going to win this year's hunt and no one is going to get in his way. Well, as they're driving along, Mitch sees the October Boy cross the road from one cornfield into the next, and before the October Boy can get away, they have already stopped the car, jumped out with pitchforks, and started pursuing him. However, Charlie gets separated from his friends, and once he's alone, the October Boy comes up from behind and puts a knife to his throat and demands that Charlie gives him his flashlight, which, seeing as Charlie has no other choice, he does just that. Then, when the October Boy tells Charlie to run, he hauls ass. But in the process of him doing this, Mitch mistakes Charlie for being the October Boy, and he accidentally kills him. Then, when the October Boy emerges from the cornfield, Bud runs off and leaves Mitch to fend for himself. And as Mitch is trying to get back to his car, the October Boy stabs him in the ankle with a pitchfork, takes his keys, and drives off without inflicting any more harm. Everything about this moment took me by surprise. Like, for starters, I didn't think the October Boy would have been able to talk. Then, because of how Charlie died, I started to think that maybe the October Boy was going to kill off his opponents by using tricks, especially since the author stated that the October Boy was trick and treat. But when the October Boy allowed Mitch the opportunity to live, I started to wonder if maybe he wasn't this evil thing that the town had painted him out to be, and perhaps all he wanted to do was just get to the church. Which, unless him going to the church would make the apocalypse happen, I honestly didn't see a problem with him going there. So, because of how this started to play out, I started to believe that maybe the October Boy was simply misunderstood, which, judging by the cover, I did not expect to feel this way about him. My next favorite moment was the twist reveal. Now, leading up to this, the October Boy had driven into town, but he wasn't able to go inside of the church because it was surrounded. So, after deciding he needed a place to regroup, he goes to this abandoned house, which we eventually realize had been his home. Shortly thereafter, it's revealed that the October Boy is actually a teenager named Jim who had killed last year's October Boy by using chains. And immediately after he won, Jim was highly celebrated, then taken out to this cornfield where the antagonist by the name of Rix murdered him. Then, from where Jim was buried, vines sprouted from his corpse and crept up a nearby scarecrow pole until they formed a body with a pumpkin for a head. And after the turn of a year, when his body was fully formed, Jim's father came out to him, carved him a face, stuffed him full of candy, and handed him a butcher's knife so they could continue forward with their yearly tradition. As I said, I didn't anticipate to feel sorry for the October Boy because the cover painted him out to be this bloodthirsty monster. But as I continued my read, I started to warm up to him, and I didn't exactly know why, but I just knew there was something that had been hidden from us, and he wasn't this monster that I thought he had been. Then, when this reveal happened, it left me with my jaw dropped because I honestly did not expect this scenario. Aside from that, when I was looking around online, I noticed where some readers were dissatisfied with this book because it never explained why this town had to uphold its tradition. But personally, with me reading in between the lines, I felt like the tradition had to continue so the town could remain in poverty while the higher ups were able to keep its townspeople in their place. Which, a moment that made me feel pretty confident in this assumption was when Rix had thought an old way of life had gone straight to hell after the October Boy had actually entered the church. And even though I feel like that was the reason why, I still don't know exactly when this tradition started, who started it, and how it became supernatural. And to be honest, I don't think that those points are really important to the book because I really feel like the main focus of this work is to focus on breaking abusive cycles. My final favorite moment was the ending. Now, leading up to this, the October Boy had set fire to his home to create a diversion. And as the flames spread, it caused people who were surrounding the church to run off and see what was going on, which this allowed the October Boy a better chance to win. Then, as it drew closer to midnight, Rix calls the October Boy to wreck. But in the process of doing this, Rix also wrecked his vehicle and he temporarily became trapped behind the steering wheel. However, since Rix had picked up a teenager named Riley, he sends Riley off to kill the October Boy so their tradition can be fulfilled. Then, as Riley's shooting at the October Boy, Pete and Kelly sneak up from behind and knock him out. Then, as they're trying to escort the October Boy into the church, Rix is able to escape his car where he shoots at them. Even still, Rix misses and they enter the church just in the nick of time. Well, since Rix is pissed and he wants revenge, he kills Riley, then heads off to the church. And even though Kelly and Pete have escaped out the back door, the October Boy stays inside with Pete's gun. Then, as soon as Rix approaches him, the October Boy blows him to Kingdom Come. And to add a cherry on the cake, everyone is able to escape this burning town and start a new life elsewhere. Aside from me being extremely happy that Rix got his comeuppance, I was glad that the town burned down because it was so very toxic. Which I say this because as I was reading the dialogue, I got the feeling that the violence here progressively got worse every Halloween. And because of the town burning down, it truly felt like the flames purified the area, and it also prevented it from ever recovering so that a nightmare like this would not be able to happen again. Also, because of the small town aspect, as well as the mob mentality and the dark tradition, I could totally see where Shirley Jackson's work influenced the author. I would like to use this opportunity to bitch about Ricks. Now, this shit for brains is the prime example of a corrupt asshole who is in power and he has to maintain that power so he can keep everyone under his thumb. And the funny thing is, when shit gets real and starts going down, Ricks loses his shit even more because he can't cope with the fact that he's not in control 24/7. And out of all of the horrible shit he does, he makes threats left and right. He uses police brutality. He's a child murderer. He kills people who refuse to obey him. And the list continues. So, yeah, total toxic mill with baby dick syndrome. And you can only imagine how happy I was when the October boy blew this turd nugget out of the church, then busted a final cap in his ass. Like, just seeing this sack of vomit meet his maker made my Halloween. Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge painted a noir portrait that glorified everything Halloween. And it gave me characters who I absolutely loved, as well as ones who I couldn't stand. And as far as themes are concerned, I noticed this book focused on toxic authority, abusive cycles, sexism, and rebellious liberation. Character wise, I wasn't expecting to root for the October Boy, but upon understanding his complicated circumstance, he quickly won my heart. Also, Pete and Kelly made a kick ass duo, and if they had not stood together, I don't think everything would have been possible at the end of this story. And Rick's, my god, he got under my skin so damned much. Like, I can't even count the times he made my blood boil. But overall, I feel like the characters were very well fleshed out and the author didn't go overboard with their development. Theme wise, I noticed where this book focused on toxic authority. Like, for example, the character Rix was the type of person who had to be in control, and when chaos unfolded around him, I noticed where his coping skills became worse and he wanted to hurt people more. And since none of the town higher ups, like the mayor, tried to do anything to stop Rix, this indicated to me that they were just as corrupt as he was. And I think the main reasons why is because Rix enforced an outdated tradition, he kept families in their place, and he dangled a carrot before any parent who had a teenage son. So these are just a few examples of the corruption I noticed, but I'm sure it's more deeply seated than that because Rix literally got away with police brutality and murder. Next up, this book focused on abusive cycles, which, in this regards, I noticed how every year the town's youth seemingly became more violent simply because they wanted to escape. So, with that in mind, as everyone's life here became this repressed cesspool, we're presented with the town's yearly tradition, which is honestly nothing more than an abusive cycle that leads to more heartache. And because of how this plays out, it's not hard to see that unless this abusive cycle is broken, no one can escape. Next up is sexism. And even though this subject doesn't play a huge part in this book, the elements are there, especially by how Kelly is bullied and how girls aren't allowed to participate in the yearly tradition. Also, to hint at this further, Kelly's voice is the only female perspective we have in this work. And because of how she refuses to obey male authority, I felt like this greatly commented on how females especially had to be rebellious in order to become liberated. And last, I noticed the subject of rebellious liberation, where if you're trapped, you must be willing to do whatever it takes to break your chains. which, even though I would like to elaborate on this subject, I honestly can't due to spoilers. But I can say that because of the rebellious heroes that are presented in this book, we are shown where a promising future can be obtained after the old toxic ways of life are abolished. Overall, Dark Harvest didn't scare me, creep me out, or gross me out. However, it did keep me on the edge of my seat, and because of how fast paced it was, I read it in the matter of 2 days. Dark Harvest by Norman Partridge was a great folk horror story. And even though we never receive an explanation why the tradition in this book took place, I tend to think that's not the point of this work. Instead, I think this work wants us to focus on the journey we took with our characters, as well as breaking abusive cycles. But anywho, at the end of the day, if you are looking for a fast paced book that you can read in maybe 1, 2 sittings, I do highly recommend Dark Harvest, as it is nothing but Halloween goodness. Now that we're at the end of this review, I would like to thank these amazing people for contributing to my Patreon account. As you can see, some of the names listed here are creators, so be sure to check out their work. And if you would like to contribute to my Patreon as well, I have a link available in the description section of this episode, where for $5 a month, I'll give you a shout out at the end of my videos, like what you see here. And if there's a certain profession you would like for me to tie to your name, just let me know and I'll include that as well. Also, I do have a $10 tier available, which will still give you the shout out at the end of my videos, but I do creepy photography on the side, so at the beginning of every month, I'll send you over one of my creepy photos. From there, you can print it off, do whatever you like. So if you're able to do this, that's awesome. If not, no sweat. I just hope you return to this channel so we can have a good time together. Also, if you would like to hit me up on social media, links to my Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram are all available in the description section of this episode. And if you have yet to subscribe to this channel, be sure to subscribe and click that notifications bell because I do have more book reviews coming in the near future. So, until we see each other again, I hope you have a great week and sweet nightmares.